What's going on, everyone? And I'm here, and it is an absolutely fantastic evening. I actually was going to record this video a half hour ago, but somebody sent me a clip. Basically, it was funny. Either way, it's going to be my new intro shortly. Um, so, I want to talk about what happens next when some of the Sword and Shield sets rotate out, what its impact on reprints is going to be, and what happens next. But I want to tell a quick story. So we just ran our big set on, or our sale on TCG Player, a follow up to our 179.99 Surging Spark set that apparently has people all fired up. But we sold Paldean Fates, Paradox Rift, Stellar Crown, and we sold the Terapagos UPCs, which kind of surprisingly sold very well. So um, Friday, we had everything in the store, hundreds of boxes stacked up, and everybody's packing boxes up, whatever. And but a customer came in, and he comes in and he's like, "Hey, do you guys have any Terapagos Ultra Premium collections for sale?" And guy in the store goes, "Yeah, they're $110." He's like, "Ah, really?" He's like, "We just had there was a sale on TCG Player for $99.99. I wish I would have bought one there." And our guy goes, "So you didn't buy any?" He's like, "No." And he's like, "It looks like you guys have a lot, and there's 200 of them stacked against the wall." And he's just looking and smiles and walks out. So it just goes to show you, just because you don't know something's happening doesn't mean it's not happening. Just saying, words to live by. But I digress. I have a new intro here, probably by the end of the week when the news gets out. So anyway, sorry, I just think it's hilarious. And by the way, just because people have a relatively new account on YouTube, it doesn't mean it's like some college kid who's just getting into the industry for the first time. And I get everybody starts somewhere, but hubris is a wonderful thing. So, all right. So, what I want to talk about is specifically Crown Zenith. So, Sword and Shield is going to rotate out in April, and it's generally accepted fact that when sets rotate out of standard play, they are taken off the table for reprint. So we have Astral Brilliant, Twilight, Lost Origin, and I believe Pokemon Go. None of those are super relevant. They haven't been reprinted in a while. But then we have Crown Zenith. So Crown Zenith has obviously been reprinted to the ground with Sea and Sky. But as we can see here, the booster packs just continue to be on absolute fire. I mean, $8 a pack is crazy. And I remember buying these in December, kind of in anticipation of this happening. And I was paying $325 to $375, and I'm sitting probably on 2,000-3,000 packs. Not where I'd like to be, but I mean, $8 is absolutely insane. And look, I get it. Everybody loves to rip these. And ripping shippers, this is kind of their bread and butter. This in 151 and Prismatic now. But this is absolutely crazy. I mean, look at the number of these that have sold in the last month. 7,500 packs. So if we project this out, and there's no Sea and Sky coming to Sam's Club, it's obviously going to take a couple months to roll this off. But you basically have 2 months of inventory on TCG Player. Do you know how quickly these packs are going to be $10, $15, $20? It's absolutely insane. But I think the important takeaway is, A, if you want to buy it now, because it's going to do nothing but go up. But B, people tend to think that sets aren't going to be reprinted just because they're getting a little long in the tooth. And every one of these situations is a little bit different. Sword and Shield, even though Silver Tempest, for example, isn't going to roll off of standard until April this year. There was a massive reprint at the end of 2023, early 2024. I forget exactly when. And it just sat there. And it sat there and it sat there. And quite honestly, up until probably 2 months ago, Silver Tempest ETBs were sitting for like $30, $35. I remember we bought 20, 30 cases of them from one of our distribution partners in I think it was August, and that was at $25 per ETB. And we're like, oh, it's probably coming to an end. We should probably buy some and just sit on them. And that's when I wasn't nearly as plugged in as I am now. But it just goes to show that every one of these is different. So look at 151. Yeah, I've heard a lot of people say, well, blooming waters, and then we're not going to get anything at all. Well, 151 doesn't rotate out until April of 2026. If you don't think 151 is going to be reprinted at least as much as Crown Zenith, especially with the packs selling for 11, 12, $13, you're out of your damn mind. Like, just because you're taking the hopium that, hey, I hope it doesn't get reprinted so it goes to the roof, or the price goes through the roof because it's in my best interest personally, doesn't mean it's actually going to happen. Now, they could reprint a ton, and it has no impact on price, like all the bundles that came to market. And, I think what's interesting with this reprint, it's going to be meaningful, and a lot of it's going to get pushed out. And the Pokemon Company wants the price to go down so it becomes more affordable, especially on these early sets, because, quite honestly, it could very well be the last little reprint here on Paldea and Obsidian Flames. However, just because distribution is most likely going to sell these for 100, 120, obviously it's subject to change. I have not seen an actual PO. I've seen the SKUs. I've seen the order form from some of my distribution. And by the way, I have 7 distribution partners, and they're all maxed out right now. Just saying. Not one. But it doesn't mean that the stores who get the bulk of the product are going to turn around and fire sale it. That's just not happening because stores don't have to do this. It's not like Magic the Gathering. And I think I mentioned this in my videos last night. You look at the Commander decks that they just reprinted, and there's a ton of margin. I mean, I think the distro price was 108 to, I think 129 was the highest price I've seen. And I don't know if that was a post-release price. Well, not post-release, but post reprint price, or if that's what their price was the entire time. Obviously we buy Magic from our WPN store when available because there's benefit to it. But Bloomberg, for example, was selling for $325 when those reprints hit, and it slowly ticked down 300, 290, 280, 270, and then all of a sudden I looked one day and it's like there's 17 people selling at 155. And it's like these stores just can't help themselves because in Magic, it's a race to zero every single time. But in Pokemon, that doesn't happen because it doesn't have to happen, because the product's going to sell one way or another, which is interesting because both games really, really struggled in 22, 23, and quite honestly, the first half of 2024, where you still have, the specter of what if this sets a dog, right? But for whatever reason, it's just not happening with Pokemon. So when these boxes come to market, I'm certainly not going to fire sell them. I don't think most folks are going to fire sell them because the other thing to keep in mind is a lot of these LGSs are reasonably healthy. Now, did they get a lot of product of Prismatic at $30 for an ETB that they then churned for 125? No. But generally speaking, all of that old product that's been dead inventory forever, it should have all moved. It should have all moved at a healthy margin. So, that sunk cost from 2 years ago is now churning pretty significant profits for these stores. But getting back to 151, they're not going to stop reprinting 151 until at the earliest April of next year. Now, it remains to be seen if they reprint Crown Zenith after it rotates out. Because look, we can all look at trends in the past sets and generations, but the people making the decisions change. They come and go. The situation comes and goes. I don't blame any of the missteps from COVID on the Pokemon Company because there isn't a person in the world that could predict when it was going to end, when the doors were going to unlock, and people were going to go outside and have better things to spend their money on. It's just kind of the way the world is. So, the other thing is if Crown Zenith is no longer reprinted, you're going to have a massive, an absolutely insane amount of funds from primarily the rip and ship community that now have to go somewhere else. Well, where are they going to go? That's going to go to the new fun product. So it's going to go to probably your Petty Evolved, Prismatic, Journey Together, Surging Sparks. Most of the rip and shippers I know, and I think I mentioned this the other night, Stellar Crown is like a top 4 or top 5 set. It's more popular than Temporal, Twilight, Obsidian, SV Base, although SV Base has had a little bit of a resurgence with some of the SIRs moving. And Paradox. And I mean, don't look now, but the Eevee and the Paradox boxes it's starting to get a little meaty. So every set here is fun, and you're talking about millions and millions of dollars that are getting ripped on a weekly basis that now has to go somewhere else. So either they're going to continue to chase Crown Zenith, and the packs are going to go through the roof, and probably give Evolving Skies a run for its money within the next year, or they're going to be reallocated to all these new sets. And it just drives more demand into the new product that, quite honestly, I don't think they can keep up on. But anyway, I think it was an important discussion because I'm not sure a lot of people know that Crown Zenith is probably on its last legs. In fact, I believe Sam's Club has confirmed behind the scenes that they are no longer restocking. So there's no more product coming other than what's already in the pipeline. So we'll see. So anyway, guys, have fun. Enjoy the hobby. Like, subscribe, join the Discord, and feel free to encourage me to delete my YouTube account when these reprints don't come. That's sarcasm, guys.